It was June 23, 1757, a day that changed the destiny of an entire subcontinent. On the banks of the Bhagirathi River in Bengal, a short battle lasting barely 3 hours ended centuries of Indian rule and marked the beginning of almost 200 years of British domination. This is the story of the Battle of Plassey, a tale of betrayal, ambition, and greed, where a young Nawab faced one of the world's most cunning merchants. To understand Plassey, we must go back to the mid-18th century. India was still under the shadow of the Mughal Empire, but the empire's control had weakened dramatically. Regional powers had emerged: Hyderabad, Awadh, Mysore, and Bengal. Each ruled almost independently. Bengal, however, was the richest of them all. Its fertile land produced silk, muslin, and saltpeter, key exports that made it the economic jewel of India. The British East India Company, a private trading corporation, had already established trading centers in Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. But Bengal was the crown prize, and everyone wanted a piece of it: the British, the French, and even local Indian elites. When Alivardi Khan, the powerful Nawab of Bengal, died in 1756, his 23-year-old grandson, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, ascended the throne. Siraj was young, emotional, and often described as impulsive. But he was also fiercely independent. He disliked the growing arrogance of the British East India Company, which had begun building fortifications around Calcutta without his permission, and even sheltered some of his enemies. To him, this was open defiance. In June 1756, Siraj marched to Calcutta and captured the British settlement. Many company officials fled, leaving the fort undefended. During the aftermath, a tragic incident occurred, later exaggerated by the British, known as the Black Hole of Calcutta, where several British prisoners died in a cramped cell. The British used this event as justification for revenge. In early 1757, Robert Clive, a young British officer, sailed from Madras with troops to retake Calcutta. By February, Clive had recaptured the city and sought to negotiate peace, but secretly he had much larger ambitions. At this point, Clive began plotting to overthrow Siraj-ud-Dowlah and install a puppet ruler. He found willing allies among Siraj's inner circle, men motivated by greed, jealousy, and ambition. The key conspirator was Mir Jafar, Siraj's commander-in-chief. Alongside him were influential bankers like Jagat Seth, Omachand, and others who believed they could control Bengal more easily under British influence. They signed a secret pact promising to support Clive if he made Mir Jafar the new Nawab. By June 1757, the stage was set for confrontation. Siraj gathered a massive army, around 50,000 soldiers, 200 cannons, and several war elephants, and camped near the village of Plassey, about 150 kilometers north of Calcutta. Clive, on the other hand, had barely 3,000 troops, including 900 European soldiers and 2,100 Indian sepoys. The odds were completely against him, but Clive had something Siraj did not: insider betrayal. At dawn on June 23, 1757, the battle began. Thunderclouds gathered over the battlefield, and the monsoon rains turned the ground into mud. Siraj's cannons opened fire first, but the downpour soon dampened their gunpowder. Clive's troops, protected by trees and embankments, waited patiently. Mir Jafar and his forces, nearly a third of Siraj's army, stood motionless, pretending to await orders. Hours passed, and Siraj grew desperate. His loyal commander, Mir Madan, tried to rally the troops but was killed in action. Seeing this, panic spread among Siraj's ranks. When Clive finally ordered his men to advance, the Nawab's army collapsed. The betrayal was complete. Siraj fled the battlefield and rode back to Murshidabad, hoping to gather support. But his allies had already deserted him. Within 2 days, he was captured by Mir Jafar's men and brutally executed. The young Nawab of Bengal was dead, and with him, Indian control over Bengal ended. The aftermath of the battle changed everything. Mir Jafar was installed as the Nawab, but in reality, he was only a figurehead. The true power now rested with the British East India Company. In return for their help, the company received enormous sums of money: gold, silver, and the right to collect revenue from vast parts of Bengal. This victory transformed the company from a trading enterprise into a territorial power. The Battle of Plassey wasn't just a military encounter, it was a corporate coup, a victory won more through manipulation and bribery than through combat. In fact, only about 20 British soldiers died in the entire battle. Yet, its consequences were enormous. Within a few years, Bengal's immense wealth began flowing to Britain, funding the Industrial Revolution and enriching shareholders of the East India Company. Meanwhile, Bengal itself descended into economic ruin, leading to the Great Famine of 1770. Robert Clive returned to England as a hero and was hailed as Clive of India. He became one of the richest men of his time. But even he later admitted before the British Parliament that the wealth he took was beyond imagination. Ironically, the man who began the British Empire in India would later die by suicide, haunted by guilt and scandal. The Battle of Plassey marked the first major step toward British political control in India. It was followed by the Battle of Buxar in 1764, which cemented the company's authority over Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. From there, British influence spread across the entire subcontinent. When we look back today, Plassey is more than just a battle. It's a symbol of how internal division and betrayal can destroy even the strongest of nations. A few signatures, a handful of lies, and a single morning's fight changed India's destiny for nearly 2 centuries. The name Plassey still echoes as a reminder that foreign domination often begins not with conquest, but with corruption, greed, and betrayal from within.